Hey, what's going on, everybody? Man, look who's in the house. James Hollingsworth and
Deshra Vines Leak.
woo, baby, we're in the house. How y'all doing today? Hey, if you are watching us live streaming via you of the tube, make sure you press that subscribe button for your boy. We're trying to get this channel up and going. We need the algorithm to kick in. So if you're watching via Facebook, will you please share the video, press the heart button or the thumbs up button, but share the video because that really helps with the algorithms on the social media platforms and helps us to begin to broaden out to a wider base when you share the video. So do that for us. Help us out on the Working People's podcast up in here.
Yes.
I want to show y'all something real quick. Hey, and on YouTube, press that notification bell. Press that bell. Ring that bell. So let me show y'all something real quick. Because you all, maybe if you didn't watch the other video from last night, you may not be aware. Our good sister right there. Sister, go ahead, share it with them and tell them what we're looking at here.
Yeah, so this is pretty much just the advertisement photo that we've created through a web-based designer that I use. And this is just to kind of let people know what services we provide. I do own a consultant business that's an extension of my current business. It's called Creative Consultant and Training Services. We do a wide variety of training for people who would like to get into the home healthcare field, either to do adult daycare services, in-home care services, licensed group home services, transportation services. Those are an array of services that we offer. So we're very skilled with being able to provide that level of training to either the direct care staff or either the CEOs or even some of the office staff. So if you would like more information, you can get a hold to me via the phone number that's at the bottom of this card. Send me a text. If you're in the state of Michigan or the state of Ohio, feel free to reach out to me and I can get back in contact with you, or we can set up a time to either meet via Zoom. And you can express to me what needs you have for your business or even your desire to open up a business.
Yes, 419-410-9438. And just in case you didn't hear me, I'm going to say it again. 419-410-9438. Contact your sister. She has a lot of knowledge in terms of how you can get your business up and going. And if you haven't seen the previous videos, the most recent ones, you want to get caught up. I'm telling you that right now. So the must watch videos that you got to go back a few days and start watching, check out definitely the video that we did live streaming. It's on YouTube. It's also here on Facebook on this page, Family, the Foundation to Generational Wealth. And then as a follow-up to that video, we did a video on the psychology of spending money. And that really talks about how the U.S. National Organization of Commerce, they've been tracking using all types of studies, even hiring psychologists to study the spending of African Americans, Black people. And in that video, I talk about a documentary that was done in 1954, and you need to check it out. The psychology of spending money, because they have been tracking our spending habits since 1939. And in 1954, Black people accounted for 15 billion of buying power in the United States. And since that time, from 2019, we were at 1.4 trillion. And last year, numbers are reported out showing that we are now at 1.6 trillion of buying power. And then last night, my buddy Russ came through. If you haven't watched that video, Financial Maturity, you definitely, Deidre, tell him it's a must watch.
Oh, yeah.
Tell him. Now, because Deidre was in the house. So, can you handle being wealthy? Can you seriously handle being wealthy? So you want to check those videos out. Those are much must watch videos. I'm telling you that right now.
Yes.
So Deidre, let's kick this thing right off. And let's just go ahead and just, if y'all don't mind, we're gonna just Will Smith you, slap you right in the face. just, just go
Yeah.
bring it. hot and heavy.
Right.
So get into business again. So people want to get started in the business. We talked a lot about this last week. Let's take it a notch up. Let's talk about a specific type of business like sole proprietorships, because that's one of the easiest ones to get going. You can get your paperwork done. You can get your bank account set up. But really, tell us from a sole proprietorship level. Go ahead.
Yeah. James is absolutely right. So with the sole proprietorship, most of the times that is usually the very first type of entity that most people would look into doing. So it's pretty easy to get. You basically will get an assumed name, which is also classified as a DBA, doing
Mhm.
business as. So with that DBA, it gives you the ability to acquire insurances, liability coverage for your business entity. It
Yeah.
allows you to get an EIN, a tax ID number, as well as with the DBA sole proprietorship, you can send your paperwork into the IRS, which is what's needed to get your EIN. And you
Mhm.
can also acquire a bank account. So with the sole proprietorship, typically that's one person, an individual person, and the way you are taxed is that the tax, even though you have an EIN. So when we talk about an EIN, you want to think in terms of a social security number, but yet for the business.
Well, let's tell them, because let's do it 101. For some people, if you don't know what an EIN is, it's an employer identification number.
That is correct. The EIN, like James said, the definition is it is an employer identification number. That identification number can be viewed as a social security number. So
Mhm.
when you're at a point where you're trying to acquire credit for the business, either through Dun and Bradstreet or any other type of entity, that is the number that you're going to want to go with. But I want to make sure that you know that even when you file taxes, yes, the EIN number may be present on your tax report, which is a Schedule C, but also your Social Security number is still yet used for any business when you're operating as a sole member. So you will
Yes.
hear the term sole proprietorship, but also a sole member. So in essence, any income that's generated from that sole proprietorship uh, business, that income can be viewed as income for the owner, or in
Mhm.
some cases, that owner of a sole proprietor is attached to their personal income. So
Yeah.
whatever income is left over, that income is the taxable income that you're taxed on when you file your annual taxes for the business and even for yourself. But also, too, with the sole proprietorship, we want to make for certain that the people understand that the owners are liable. So the liability is with the owner. So whoever that owner is, they are the ones that's liable for the debt
Yes.
and for the income for that business. So a lot of the times when people first start out and they decide to go the route of a sole proprietorship, they need to make for certain that they understand, any income that's generated from that business, that is viewed as your income, whether you pay yourself by way of a owner's
1099.
draw
Yeah.
or
Okay.
not.
I
No,
got you.
and even
Yeah.
with a sole proprietorship, you don't have to 1099
That's
yourself.
true.
You definitely
That's
do
true.
not W-2 yourself. You cannot use that income as taxable income and as if you are an employee.
Right.
No, you take what's known as an owner's draw, whether it's you set yourself up a salary amount that
Yeah.
can be deposited as a direct deposit if you're running in-house payroll or if you have a payroll service company. So basically, you get what's known as owner's draw, and that is viewed as your income, your monthly income, bi-weekly income, or your annual income. But in addition to that, you still pay taxes on the money that's that's been accumulated for the business, which is the asset for the business. That's what you pay taxes on, which are
Yeah,
Schedule C.
makes sense.
A lot of the times people don't understand being a sole proprietorship. How are you to pay yourself? And in essence, you want to pay yourself through a trackable source. What I mean by that is through a payroll service company or an in-house payroll. You want to run it. So you want to make for certain that you have to acquire any credit or anything for your personal life, that you can show that this money is what I make, not just
Right.
on paper, but if it's direct deposited into an account, you can essentially go to your bank and they can pull up those deposits and they can actually show and have a track record of where those deposits actually came from.
Ooh, this is good. This is good stuff. So, Deidre, let me ask you with that. So, some people, and I've seen and heard this, they don't even know necessarily that running your business as a sole proprietorship, you can also hire employees.
Mhm.
It's not
Yes.
where you have to. It's not saying that you have to operate your business as a sole person by yourself. That's not what that means. You can actually hire employees. You can run social security,
Mhm.
deposits for them, everything. It's you just regular business. But also talk more about access to funding, because when you set your business up as a sole proprietorship, talk more about how you can get access to funding, whether it's through credit, maybe
Mhm.
perhaps small business loans, investors, venture capitalists, or whatever. Talk some more about that.
Yeah, that is true. Just because you are a sole proprietor, it doesn't mean that you're the one who run the business or do the hands-on work. It just means you are the owner of that entity and that business. So there are a lot of ways that you can acquire income for the business, whether it be through loans, whether secured or unsecured loans. So basically, with the unsecured loan, generally the terms are going to be you pay it back quicker. Most times you're going to find that the interest rate is much higher on those unsecured loans.
Hmm.
Whereas a secured loan, you have to put up some collateral. And usually when you put up collateral, it's usually something that's a tangible asset, something that if you do not make good on that loan, that they can, whether it be repossess it or they can acquire that to pay back the debt. And a lot of times with those loans, the lender want to make for certain that if they lend that money to you, that they're not just taking a risk, but that you're going to make
Hmm.
good on that loan. And we know now, just with the pandemic, there was a lot of funding being made available to small business owners through the SBA, and a lot of people took advantage of that because. With those SBA, I'm not talking about the grants, I'm talking about
Right.
the loans. A lot of those loans were made available at a pretty modest to low interest rate.
Hmm.
And most people took advantage of it because with the pandemic, a lot of businesses took a financial hit. And those funds were there and available to keep your business afloat, because that's
Right.
what the government wanted to be able to see, was that through the pandemic, funds that were going to be able to be distributed were going to be distributed in good faith, but also be used for the intended purposes, which is to keep your doors of your business open. So a
Yes.
lot of people took advantage of that. I don't know if it's still available. I did get some information a couple weeks back that they were closing that down. But yet again, there were grants, and people have a misconception that everybody can get a grant. Once a grant is
Mm.
open and you can apply for it, that you're going to get it. Grants, when grant funding comes about, there are a lot of people who apply to get part of that grant money.
Mm.
So grant money and a loan, those are two separate things. Grant money does not have to be paid back. You know, when you think of grant money, you know, think of a Pell Grant. You know, most people or some people who have went to college, you know, they understand and know what a Pell Grant is. That is the money that's given to you to help pay for your college
Right. Right.
classes. It's the same way with a business grant. If you are able to get a grant, you do not have to pay that back if you're awarded that grant. But there are some stipulations that you have to adhere to make sure that you are utilizing those funds consistent with that grant.
Well, all right, because we've been seeing it. You sent me a link earlier about some folk
Mhm.
accessing
Mhm.
some funds and stuff, and now they hemmed up in some legal stuff that look like they might be, having some fines and maybe even going to prison. And so
Yeah.
you don't want to get hemmed up like that. So make sure you know what those stipulations are. And one other thing, Deidre, I want to ask you about is, so you're running a sole proprietorship, you got employees, whatever type of businesses it could be in the same field that you're in or some other kind of thing. At the end of the day, it's still a business, right? So, what about when you go to get more traditional type funding, or maybe you wanted to approach some investors? Tell us in that framework, because I already have an idea and know, but I want you to present it to the people about valuation of your business, because you got to come up with some type of valuation, because it's either, if it's not necessarily a unsecured loan, which comes with higher
Mhm.
rates, you talked about the more secured loans, they have to some kind of way valuate your business. So are they going to do it through your cash flow with your income? They're going to do it with maybe perhaps if you own some equipment, say in your
Yep.
case, if you own some vans, or if you own a particular building that's actually owned as an asset. But talk about that
Mhm.
from your professional knowledge about how you can get your business properly valuated so that you can access the access additional enough funding to that's suitable.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of the times, if you're going to a lending institution, whether it be through a traditional bank, credit union, they're going to want to be able to know what is the value of your business. They're going to ask for 3 years of IRS tax returns. They're
Hmm.
going to want to see not just the returns that you submitted, but they're going to usually want to see a transcript. And that transcript is what has been reported to the IRS. What have they received and have stamped as this is what the business has turned in us as a tax return. Equipment, they're going to want to evaluate your equipment. Whatever equipment that your business may own, we got to keep in mind that most things depreciate, or they can depreciate it over a span of probably 8 to 10 years, whether it be a vehicle. In my case, we own I think at this point we have about four mini buses that we use to get our people back and forth to our adult daycare
Hmm.
center. Inventory. Do you have any inventory? So
Yes.
somebody, usually a third party, will come in and assess your inventory. We see it all the time in places like Walmart, where you see they have people who may be in there calculating their inventory. They're doing it through a third party
Hmm.
because that third party is the responsible person to calculate their inventory. You should
Yes.
never independently calculate your inventory because, like James said in one of the last videos we had shared together, you can put down or write down whatever. In some cases, you're going to want a third party's professional opinion. So whether you have bonds or stock. So keeping in
Hmm.
mind that usually when it is a sole proprietor, that is what's known as a closely held company. Think about a mom and pop shop. Think about back when you were growing up, it was probably your local corner store owner. That is a closely held company. Those companies, whether it's a DBA, sole proprietor, or LLC, they do not publicly trade on the stock market. They are a closely held company.
Hmm.
So there are ways where their business can be evaluated based upon different assets that that business own or have access to. They may have
Yes,
access to money in the bank. Anything that's tangible, anything that can be sold. Um,
absolutely.
and if you have to liquidate, that is
And that's why
considered an asset.
inventory is important, and accurate count on inventory, because that all of that counts as something that is evaluated in terms of what your business is worth. So that's important to know. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, but go
Hmm.
ahead. I didn't want to cut into
Yeah,
you. Sorry
I
about that.
mean, and no, you're fine. And a lot of the times too, it can be evaluated based upon cash flow analysis, or it can be evaluated if you're doing a profit and loss. Like for instance, if you are applying for certain things, that person or entity that you're applying for, they may request a profit and loss statement. Now,
Hmm.
let me be honest, they don't want you going in your office doing something on Excel. You're trying to get, $3 million from a banking institution. They're going to want those forms to come from a CPA, which is a certified
Yes.
public accountant.
Come on
Now,
now.
it's
Talk
not to
to us.
say that your accountant may not be a CPA. They may have a level of education in accounting, but a CPA is different from somebody who can just prepare your taxes. You
Hmm.
know, so they're going to want to say, was that evaluated by a CPA? And a CPA
Yes.
is going to dig deep,
Yes.
because if you're reaching out to go to a lending institution to borrow money, the worst thing you can do is misrepresent your business, looking like that business is more profitable than it actually is.
Yes.
That can really get you in a lot of trouble.
And also to bring to light as well, when Deidre brought that up, is there's certain attorneys that have certain accreditations to do these type of
Mhm.
filings. There's certain also financial advisors and planners that have a staff of people that do all types of planning, including taxes and all of those type of documents that you would need to be able to provide to a lending institution. So it's important to know that there's a lot of resources out there and professional resources that you can tap into when you need to prepare that type of accounting documents.
Yes, absolutely. And because they're taking those documents in good faith, they're taking
Yes,
them under the condition that they believe that what you are presenting is
yes,
accurate. And we're
absolutely.
seeing it, like, James mentioned earlier, on a news feed, something came up about a company, I believe it's in Honolulu, Hawaii, who was just arrested for fraudulently obtaining a PPP loan.
Hmm. Aloha.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we've seen it down and through the last months. They're shedding a lot of attention on the bigger fish, which means people who've acquired, $1 million or
Oh
upward
yeah.
of these loans in a fraudulently manner. So basically, what they did was they misrepresented the documentation that they supplied for the purpose of gaining federal dollars that
Mm.
rightfully probably they were not entitled to.
Mhm.
So it's unfortunate because there were businesses that went under because they couldn't tap into some of those funds.
Yes.
So I don't think this is the last that we're going to see of this.
No, I
I
don't
think
think
this
so.
is just, the beginning, because as things begin to get back to some form of normalcy, they're going to be looking into a lot of that. And that's why we said last time, you always want to operate with clean hands, because it can come back on you in a way that you least expect it.
So when I'm gonna tap into one more question along these same lines, and then I want to tap over into something else before we wrap up for the day. But creative type, and I'm gonna say creative billing, even though we know billing is not necessarily something that you're paying out for services. I'm talking about maybe funds that you could receive. So Remember we talked about earlier about tapping into other sources in your business to create more revenue, so you can create and generate more profits. Can you give us some ideals? And you went into other business fields that you're not even
Mhm.
necessarily in, but because you're in business, you understand the whole ideal and concept. But maybe throw out some ideals and things where people maybe they're missing out on some revenue streams in their current business, or
Mhm.
missing out on some additional profit because maybe they're not getting creative with their billing. Like you talked about, you can charge additional fees for the services that you provide for transportation. But
Mhm.
yeah, talk about that a little bit before I get into one other thing before we wrap up. But
Absolutely. So yeah, that is true. As I mentioned to James earlier, the type of business that I'm in is when we say home health, it's the variety of service, right?
mhm,
So for us in Michigan, we do adult foster care group homes. We're actually in the process of opening up a 20 bed. Our goal is to have that completed by 2023 and up and
mhm,
ready to operate. But in Ohio, we do a variety of services. We do adult daycare, that is a service. We do transportation, that is another service. We do in-home care, that's another service. We can choose to do community supports where we take the individuals out shopping. That's another stream of income. So the reason why I say you want to be able to know what are services that you can provide, because essentially all those services bring in its own set dollar amount that you can bill for, because it's a different service. I spoke of, if you are have a boutique, or you have you are a hairstylist. There are some other things that you can do. If you're a hairstylist, you may look into selling some additional products, some skincare products, some hair care products, and that can essentially bring in other
yes,
streams of income. So if you have a boutique, not only do you sell clothes, you may want to, offer fragrances also. That's another stream of income that you can pull from, not just selling clothes. You're selling also clothes, handbags, and other items. So you gotta, be able to evaluate what is your brand and what is your model, and how can you. It's almost like a tree, right? You take a
mm,
tree, and the tree has branches. So you have to look at it as if your boutique may be the tree. Well, what branches can come off of that tree to get you in a position to where you're able to take in additional income? You may say, okay, well, I may have a boutique, but I may have an online store where they may not live here, but they can still search our inventory and we can ship to them. So ship to
yes.
home. So there are a lot of different things that a person can do to bring in additional streams of income off of that one business.
I'm also finding, Deidre, that I've seen where some businesses tap into personal apparel wear with their own logos and their own branding and stuff like that.
Mhm,
You
mhm,
can tap into that market, which is another great stream of income because
mhm.
people are getting something that's unique to your brand that they can wear proudly and be able to represent your business. And it's also a form of advertising who you are. So there are so many creative ways, and you got to really. I love the analogy that you gave about the tree. I never thought of it that way. I always talked
Mhm.
about, we hear the different streams and all of that, but the tree, I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah,
not
go
to cut
ahead.
you off, but what you talk about was the advertisement. We, provide shirts, sweatshirts, and things like that for our employees, and at no cost to them. And I used to hear people say, "Well, you should charge," but the only time we charge is if they want above the amount that we provide, because
Yeah.
I realize that's free advertisement for the company,
Mm,
and whether they're out and they have on the shirt with the logo and whatever, we like to give a lot of positive affirmation sayings on the back. It gets people's attention. But again, it is free advertising. And like my middle son, he just asked if I would, allow the company to sponsor him and some friends. They've put together a softball team. So one of his friends' mom, she's owns a business. So her and I are both sponsors. So that's also, again, free advertisement. The company is sponsoring the shirts. I have the company that I use that makes our apparel, who's doing the actual shirts for their team, but that's free advertisement.
That's good. Boy, I tell y'all, if y'all ain't paying attention, I hope y'all got your pen and paper and writing some notes, because I'm like, can you say fire? Yay. Yeah. I ain't seen it. Hey, press that like button, please. Come on, y'all. Help a brother out. Press that like button, because Deidre is shooting fire up in here. She's giving information that you would literally have to sit down on a consultant level and get someone to talk to you about even those particular things. And so show some likes up on the screen, press that heart button, and don't forget, share this video if you're on watching us live streaming on Facebook. So Deidre, I titled this video, I don't even know if you saw it on your end, I entitled it, "Could You Use $100,000?" So you and I were talking about, and I came around the back door. I went around the cul-de-sac, snuck around the side of the house, came through the back door on this one, right? So they're like, what is they talking about now? Got to do with the title. We're gonna tell you. So shortcuts, people trying to get there quick. People trying, and we've talked about it before, people trying to get there fast. Could you use an extra $100,000? When you think about, man, $100,000, I sure could use that. But what happens when people get just something? We've talked about books and different resources that talk about how you could take $100 and turn it into 1,000, how you could take $1,000 and turn it to 1,000,000. So when you're starting on a certain level and you thinking about, man, boy, I really could use that extra money. But have you thought about those stimulus checks that could have been the startup for your business? Have you thought about, I hit something over there, didn't I? Hit something. Have you thought about your tax refunds instead of going to get your hair did and some more Jordan shoes? Have you thought about how that tax refund could turn into 100,000 for you? Have you? I felt something was coming, hit the screen. Have you thought about all of the wasted money that has been given to you over the course of the year? Maybe you had to sit and wait for it, like I say, because of a tax refund. But let's talk about that, because we hit on that the other day, how people are wasting those moments and opportunities to be able to build up and get that 100,000 because they're wasting their tax money. I know some people every year, like they take their tax money and buy a car. Like, what happened to the car that you had last year with the tax money that you just got? But give me your perspective, because I don't want nobody mad at me, because I'm trying to get some likes. I'm trying to get people to hit the like button. You know what I'm saying?
And you know what? When you were saying that, I was reminded of the scripture, and it was Hosea 4:6. It said, "My people perish for lack of knowledge." You are, you really stepping out there on some things, because we see it a lot in our community. You just said it. What happened to the car you bought last year? Why every year you gotta go to the RPM or whoever and purchase a car that is generally overpriced? Generally, most of the time, either need work done on it, if not now, within the next 6 months. Why can't we just take that money and invest it in something?
That's your seed money right there. If you got to start seeing that. That's your seed money.
Or even we see it too. Every time Black Friday, you got to go get a big screen TV every year. We are wasteful as a people. We're wasteful. We have, like you said, a buying power.
1.6 trillion.
No other race.
1.6 trillion. Number 3 in America. 1.6 trillion.
Trillion. And we don't realize it. Like I told you, and we talked about it earlier, people want to clown the ball players. They want to clown the rappers because they
Mm-hmm.
walk around with all this jewelry on. What people don't realize, me working in the jewelry industry as a part-time associate, that is an investment. If they own it outright, now I'm not saying if you're leasing to own it.
Right,
If you
right.
own it outright, whether any precious metal, you're talking about platinum, sterling silver, gold, any of that, diamonds,
And,
natural gemstones.
and let's clarify for some people. We're not talking about going to Walmart, JCP. We're talking about buying the stuff that comes with papers attached to it.
You can get, like where I work at, you can get a certificate of insurance that you can
Oh,
present to your insurance homeowners company,
yes.
because the retail value on most of that stuff will increase with time. We tell a lot of our customers, get you a safety deposit box,
Mm-hmm.
secure your jewels, because that is something that can withstand time. Like you said, I'm not saying go to Macy's. I'm not saying
Right.
go to Walmart. I am saying go to a legitimate
Accredited.
jeweler, a
Yes.
jewelry store,
Yes.
because it's going to increase with value. That is an investment. Yes, it looks good, but if you can maintain it, the value of it is going to increase. Not like a vehicle. Once you drive it off the lot, it
Right.
depreciates, it
Right.
decreases. We have to begin to think different as a people. And if we know better, the idea is that we should want to do better.
Yes. Yes. When you throw your cash app out there, and I'm just trying to get everybody us to begin to think outside the box. You throw your cash app out there for your birthday, it's not uncommon for people to get some nice contributions coming in for their birthday, different things like that. You got to see these opportunities, these moments as opportunities to reinvest that money into something that can get you to that $100,000. Because what happens is so many people begin to circumvent their wow. I feel like I'm just about to really step into a nice big old pile of poop. And people just want to circumvent around just doing things that have, that are right, integrity. And when you start feeling like, and once you taste that bug bites you and nibble on you a little bit, and you get a taste and you get away with making a bad decision, you get that money in your hands, it entices you to want to do it again. And what we're trying to do is get you to avoid doing that, because when you set up a business the size of what Deidre is running right now, and you compromise your integrity, when the fallout is major. And y'all been hearing me say it in the last few videos, and I've been saying, if you can't handle the stress and having integrity with $2,000 or 20,000, we'll even put you on that level. You don't want to be dealing with the issues that come with $200,000, and you sure don't want to be dealing with the issues that come with $2 million when you haven't handled things appropriately, because you're trying to fast track your way to wealth. Now that'll preach right there.
Yeah,
Fast
that
track your way to wealth. I
is.
keep telling y'all, I'm trying to hope you. I'm trying to hope you.
And you know what? And it's no such thing. Even just the other day, you and Russ touched on people who win the lottery. They win the
Mhm,
lottery. They're broke within 12 months. Why?
mhm.
Because people perish for lack of knowledge. They did not educate themselves. They
Yes,
did not begin to think different. As a
yes.
man thinketh, so is he. So if you got a poor man's mentality, you're going to have a poor man's spending habit.
Come on, boy. You say that one more
Because I'm
time.
sorry, you know, it's got to be more to life than going to Genesee Valley during tax season and running to Red Lobster.
Yes, yes.
No.
Absolutely.
If
And
you
there's a
want
scripture
more,
in
you got to check. If
yes.
you want more out of life, guess what you're going to have to do? You're going to have to make some changes.
Mm. There's a scripture in Zechariah. I wrote it down the other day, Zechariah 4:10. And it says, "Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin, to see the plumb line in Zerubbabel's hand." And the plumb line is something that's used to
Mhm.
create a straight line, to assess alignment and accuracy,
Mhm.
so that when
Mhm.
you begin, you won't end up down the line way down here crooked,
Yeah.
not straight.
Yeah.
So he says he rejoices in seeing that small beginning, because when you started off right and you move down the line, everything remains in alignment and it remains straight. Boy,
Mhm.
I'm telling y'all, we talking better than y'all pressing the like button.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is good stuff right here. So if you want to get to that $100,000, start reassessing how much money that you're wasting when you get your tax return. That could be your seed money right there. All the stimulus money that many people have gotten over the last few years, how many of them toys you got left from the kids that you bought? How many of them toys are still operable and the batteries, can stay in them without falling out, because the back off the battery thing is missing, and the ears off the little baby dolls is all ripped up because the I'm sorry. I'm getting it too. Folk gonna hate me after this broadcast. They're gonna be like, I'm tired of him. All he do is just talk negatively about us. I'm just trying to help you. I'm just
We're
trying to
trying to
help you.
educate you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. These are opportunities that we miss. Do you want to get to that $100,000? At a later date, me and Deja are going to talk into some strategies. We're going to start talking about equity, debt, liabilities. We're going to really talk about, because we brought it up last week, we kind of threw it out there about a SWOT analysis rather, when you're starting a business: strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And we're going to talk about how you can begin to set yourself up, to with different strategies, whether it's a strategy that's going to talk about appreciation and running a cash flow type operation, or if it's going to be on the investment side. Now, you can run that with real estate. You can run it with a business on the appreciation and cash flow side. I'm throwing stuff out there real quick, right? Different types of models you can set up. But we're going to begin to delve into some strategies to really just, more than anything, sometimes when you hear something, it sparks within you a flame and a desire to want to really just begin to change how, it really awakens something
Yeah.
in your psyche, and awakens something in your soul and in your heart. And that's what we want to do. I want to do more than just wake up your dream and refire your dream. I want to wake up a desire to begin to run after your purpose. People have
Yes.
dreams, but they don't know how to fit that dream into their purpose, because it's purpose that we begin to pursue and run after.
That's it.
You feel what I'm saying? Oh yeah, come on now. That like button should be getting fired up about right now. That like button should be like, share, share, share. So what Deja is bringing to the table in these conversations is how many years? Because I mentioned it, but I know a lot of people forgot how many years you've been doing this.
Yeah, I've actually started my first business April of 2004. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually going on almost 20 years of business ownership.
Yep.
And
Profitable.
actually working, yeah, and working in multiple states.
Yes.
So
So
yeah,
yes, we're trying to wake up something in you to say, you know what? Wow, I want to know more. That's what happened to me when James Green talked to me about some things, and I've shared a few things. And
mhm,
Roosevelt Sanders, when James Green said to me, "Water seeks its own level," I had no idea what the world he was talking about. He was talking about, as you earn more, you tend to spend more, and so he said, make sure that you always pay yourself first.
mhm,
That is
mhm.
not meaning in exclusivity of you paying your tithes or giving your tithes, returning your tithes to the Lord. That don't mean that you stop paying taxes. We're gonna have to hit on that too, because some folk been hitting me up about some stuff that I'm gonna keep telling them. Don't do it. Don't do it, Celie. Miss Celie, it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. And I'm just gonna throw it out there, and then we're gonna come back around to it and rope it up like a cow maybe later. But you know, if you think that the US government has completely absolved us and exempted us from paying any federal taxes for the rest of your entire life, you missing the boat on that one. Maybe you need to go and get back on the tricycle because riding 10 speeds is way above your level right now. So I'm sorry for if I'm insulting anybody. I'm just trying to help you. I'm just trying to help you out because you're going to end up in federal prison. Because if you violate federal law, you're not going down to Genesee County Jail. Can a church say, can a quiet church say amen? You will go to federal prison. Federal prison. Maybe some of y'all need to look that up and Google it, what federal prison is, because if you keep fooling around and dabbling into stuff that's borderline illegal and you turn the spotlight on you, because I ain't trying to embarrass nobody, but it's some folk right here in this town in Flint that was going around doing stuff that's hemmed up, that's locked up in federal prison right now. So make sure you keep your hands clean. If you want to get to that $100,000, open your eyes, begin to look around you and see all the funds that you have at your disposal, but you're overlooking them because you're despising small beginnings. So Deidre, I'm going to let you wrap us up today with whatever you want to say to wrap up this moment that we've been having, because man, it's been good.
So I just want to say, we'll be coming to you again with over the next couple of days with some more interesting and insights on things. We're going to touch on LLCs next, but also to, like James said, we're going to hit on tithes and offerings, because that is a very touchy subject, but being that it is a requirement, how are you, and are you committed to giving your 10th to the church house? Because us as people of color, sometimes people, oh well, no, I ain't, and they always asking.
Yes.
Well, we're going to look at the principles of why we should freely give and not be begrudgeful when we give.
Look at here. If you stingy now, you ain't gonna stop being stingy later if you got more money.
No, you're not. Nope. So yeah, we're going to touch on those things too, but come with any comments, anything that you want to know about regarding if you're interested in a business, if I can help you in any kind of way. James did put out my phone number. Again, that number is 419-410-9438. I always ask, if you call and I don't answer, just go ahead and leave a message, or if not, shoot me a text, and I assure you that I will get back in contact with you at my earliest convenience.
Yeah, and start coming up with some questions. You can drop questions down in the comment sections, and when we start seeing them in the next video, the next live presentation, we can start answering some of those questions. Especially, look, let's take advantage of this sister. She's giving her time right now. Let's take advantage of that. Use this as an opportunity to ask her some questions. Right? If you want to begin to move further up the road and really put some things in place and get started in some business things, call her at that phone number. But even prior to that, if you got some questions that you want to ask her, don't waste this moment. She's at our disposal. Drop those questions in the comment section so that we can answer them for you later and specifically give you some details about maybe something that may be unclear in your mind. But hey, thanks for joining in with us again today. I know it was a little brief, but hey, we got to make sure that we are coming with some content every day. So if you are on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, The Working People's Podcast. If you're on Facebook, run over there to The Working People's Podcast. James Hollingsworth, The Working People's Podcast. Press that subscribe button because, like I say, we just got the channel up and going last week. So subscribers are coming in slow, but let's get the algorithm going. Press the like button on this video or press that heart button. That's even better. If you press that anger button, oh, please tell us why. Can you tell us why you did such a thing? But keep watching the videos as we come live to you on the Working People's Podcast. And guess what? We out.
Like and share.